Across the snowy clearing, tents, dogs, and people form one compact working camp. Bright fabric marks the entrance, helping organize daily life around the shelter. After crossing open snow, the next priorities are warmth, food, and dry clothing. Heavy outerwear is handled carefully, since every layer protects against the cold. Inside, bedding and cookware surround the stove, keeping essential tasks within reach. Fresh firewood turns the enclosed shelter into a usable place for work and rest. Once the wood catches, steady heat supports cooking, drying, and melting snow. Bedding stays close to the walls, leaving precious floor space around the stove. Each piece of firewood is placed carefully, stretching a limited supply of heat. Here, warmth depends on constant attention rather than the turn of a switch. Boots, pots, and bedding share one interior because every heated corner matters. A hanging cloth creates separate areas without reducing the shelter's limited usable space. Patterned fabric lines the walls, while the central area remains open for work. Beside the tents, working dogs connect the camp to transport across deep snow. Sleds and dogs remain close, keeping winter travel equipment ready outside the shelter. People inspect the dogs and harnesses before those animals are needed for movement. At the camp's edge, tethered dogs and bare trees define the working area. A shared meal brings everyone near the stove, where food and warmth meet. Before going outside, a child is dressed carefully in protective winter layers. Children remain close as adults manage food, clothing, and equipment in the same space. Another garment is checked before the child approaches the cold beyond the doorway. Beneath the sloping poles, clothing and bedding fill nearly every available surface. A child eats nearby while household work continues around the same small table. The hood is adjusted closely, reducing exposed skin before the child goes outside. At the entrance, a narrow opening separates heated shelter from the frozen clearing. Outside, people, dogs, and sleds turn the snow into an active workyard. A smaller tent nearby adds another protected space within the exposed winter camp. Sweeping clears the floor, an important task when every corner serves several purposes. Snow and dirt enter with each trip, so cleaning becomes part of daily upkeep. Bread and meat provide a simple meal before more work begins in the cold. The children eat together while cooking, storage and movements continue around them. Once the meal ends, the same interior is cleared for another household task. A child remains near the table while adults continue working within the shelter. Bones simmer slowly, allowing stored food to provide both broth and lasting warmth. Beside the meal, packed snow begins melting into the household's usable water. Each scoop adds more snow, turning water collection into repeated carrying and heating. The pot is filled again because melted snow yields far less water than expected. Cooking, heating, and water preparation all depend on the same stove and floor space. The entrance opens briefly, admitting daylight, while the stove holds heat at the center. Covered bundles outside protect supplies that cannot fit inside the crowded shelter. With a bucket and shovel, nearby snow becomes the camp's practical water source. Sleds, lines, and tents occupy fixed places across the working winter clearing. Back inside, steam rises as gathered snow becomes water for everyday use. Fabric partitions provide privacy while preserving room for cooking, sleeping, and storage. A small container is refilled beside the stove, keeping cleaning materials ready. Even a small refill is handled carefully when supplies must serve many tasks. Laundry hangs near the tents, using open air whenever conditions allow drying. Even short trips outside connect the shelter with water, tools, animals, and supplies. Here, collecting water begins by digging into snow rather than opening a tap. The bucket fills with clean snow before the stove completes the conversion to water. Every scoop increases the load that must be carried back through the cold. Tracks across the clearing reveal the repeated routes linking camp, tools, and supplies. An upright tool remains ready while a child stays within the camp area. The filled bucket returns indoors, bringing the camp's frozen water source to the stove. Snow is handled beside bedding, showing how closely household tasks must overlap. With little spare room, water preparation happens only steps from the sleeping area. A pot of snow sits beside the stove as wet boots dry nearby. A child interacts with a dog within the camp's shared working space. Near the sleds, transport equipment, laundry, animals, and childcare occupy the same yard. Stacked wood, tents, and nearby tools define the camp's compact outdoor work area. Thick clothing and hides provide insulation during even the shortest tasks outside. Children, dogs, and sleds share the limited space immediately surrounding the shelter. Dogs rest on insulating hides near the tent between periods of work. Harnesses and sled equipment remain assembled, reducing preparation before the next journey. A household member works beside the rack, keeping equipment and animals close together. The dogs remain near the shelter, resting on hides within view of the camp. Meat is cut into smaller pieces, preparing dense food for cooking over the stove. The pieces go directly into the pot, moving quickly from preparation to a hot meal. As steam rises, cups and small utensils are arranged for serving. Meat and water heat together, allowing one fire to support several household needs. Water is transferred carefully between pots as cooking gives way to cleaning. Just beyond the doorway, a dog stays near while work continues around the stove. Pots are repositioned and covered, controlling heat before the next task begins. A small controlled fire keeps cooking, drying, and washing moving inside the shelter. Warm water is poured into a basin, preparing the limited supply for washing. After cooking, the same floor space is reorganized for washing beside the stove. Small garments are washed by hand with water previously melted from snow. Rinsing uses the basin carefully because every measure of water required fuel and labor. The table becomes a washing station, keeping bowls and containers close at hand. A clean plate completes a daily chain linking snow, fire, food, and household care. Laundry begins beside the stove, where warmth keeps water and hands working. Without machines, soap and steady hand pressure carry the entire washing process. Rinsing takes patience, since every basin must be filled and handled carefully. Wet fabric is wrung by hand before it is taken into the cold. Keeping wash water near the stove allows the chore to continue indoors. Beside the stove, one small floor area supports both washing and cooking. Used water is carried away, helping the crowded living space remain workable. Once the clothes are washed, bowls and pots reclaim the same shared floor. Tide poles and layered fabric from a shelter built from simple, practical materials. Clean garments are gathered together, ready for the next stage of drying. Overhead lines turn the tent frame into storage and drying space. Fabric and bedding are folded aside, clearing the center for another task. Small garments are scrubbed separately, making careful use of limited wash water. Children remain close as household work continues around everyday family life. The washed clothing is bundled together before being carried beyond the stove. Outside, moving laundry means crossing snow instead of stepping into a yard. A patterned cloth is hung between trees, creating a practical outdoor drying line. Bright garments hang in winter air, where drying requires time and patience. Each piece is secured by hand so it remains in place outdoors. From above, the clothesline shows domestic work extending beyond the shelter. Back inside, cooking pots replace the basins as the next task begins. Ingredients are prepared near the floor, close to the stove and utensils. Meat cooks in the pan, adding substance to the household meal. Potatoes and meat simmer together beneath a lid, holding precious heat inside. Between the stove and fabric walls, warmth must be managed throughout the day. Berries enter boiling water, adding color and flavor to a hot drink. Slow stirring helps the fruit release its color into the heated water. Plastic containers remain nearby for water, washing, storage, and daily handling. Potatoes fill the pan, preparing a dense meal for life in cold conditions. Small supplies are handled carefully at the low table, where space stays limited. The berry mixture bubbles beside kettles, sharing heat from the same stove. Working close to the fire keeps every pot within easy reach. One small stove supports cooking, hot water, and warmth inside the shelter. While the pot simmers, a child remains occupied nearby on the floor. A dark berry drink is poured after the fruit has finished simmering. A small bird is handled indoors, linking outside work with food preparation. Careful handling prepares the bird for the next practical step inside. A dog moves through the tent as part of the household's daily activity. Outside, dogs cross the snow between shelters, sleds, and working areas. Adults and children gather indoors before returning to tasks in the cold. A mat is rolled away, turning resting space back into working space. Food is checked at the stove, while activity continues around the shelter. Laundry, sleds, and dogs connect household care with movement outside camp. Loose grass or bedding is arranged carefully inside the limited living space. Dogs remain near the shelter and the equipment used on snowy ground. Movement between the dogs and stove keeps outdoor work tied to indoor warmth. Layered fabric helps block the cold while people gather near the floor. Cards on the fur-covered floor bring a quiet form of indoor play. Rest and play share the same area because each corner serves several purposes. Children stay close to adults while food, tools, and bedding remain nearby. Outside, the shelter covering is adjusted where snow and weather press against it. Viewed from above, the pole frame reveals the shelter's simple supporting structure. A covered pot keeps heat inside, while the food continues cooking. An adult works with clothing or fur as a child watches nearby. Fabric is secured overhead, while cooking continues beneath the tent frame. Around the stove, adults divide attention between food, children, and shelter upkeep. A hanging curtain creates separation inside the tent without solid walls. A child eats beside the low table, close to dishes and prepared food. Mealtime brings everyone near the floor, where heat and food remain concentrated. Even during the meal, adults continue moving through the shared cooking area. The low table organizes a room crowded with pots, blankets, and people. Outside, children use the snowy slope for play and movement. Dogs move nearby, while a small sled carries children through the snow. Sliding downhill requires balance on a surface shaped entirely by winter. Two children share the sled, adjusting together as it moves downhill. Among the trees, play stays close to the shelter and familiar paths. Sleds and dogs gather on open snow as a group prepares to move. A rider sits low in the sled, keeping weight close to the ground. Before continuing, the sled is repositioned and the group comes together again. Beyond the shelter, open snow connects play areas, paths, and working ground. At this distance, people appear small against the surrounding forest and snow. The group remains together on the slope while moving across open ground. Near camp, hanging materials and wooden frames show outdoor work still underway. Materials drying outside connect with food and warmth being managed indoors. The red drink returns to the table, simmering beside the stove. Pouring it into bottles keeps the prepared drink ready for later use. Inside, the pot remains hot while dogs gather outside near the sleds. Across the open snow, a sled provides a practical way to carry weight. People and dogs move together as the loaded sled crosses the snow. The climb makes clear how much physical effort winter travel still demands. Before departure, several hands free the loaded sled from packed snow. Once moving, the dogs pull the sled across open winter ground. Across the white distance, travel depends on recognizing subtle changes in the landscape. Nearby, one person cuts and shapes the snow for a practical task. Here, snow becomes a working material rather than only part of the weather. Repeated digging shows how simple outdoor tasks demand steady effort in winter. Each cut prepares the surface before the next stage of work begins. As the sled passes, travel and outdoor labor share the same narrow route. The tool remains close because small corrections help the structure hold. Beside the trees, the group checks the sled before continuing onward. Harnesses, poles, animals, and hands work together to move the load. Children remain nearby, watching how movement and work are organized outdoors. Daily exposure turns practical knowledge into something learned through observation. In this setting, skills are passed through ordinary family and camp routines. Even outdoor play follows the same tracks used for work and travel. Thick winter clothing allows children to remain active in severe cold. Beyond the children, dense forest and snow surround the small camp. Inside, patterned fabric and fire create a sharp contrast with the snow. Food preparation begins beside the stove, where warmth supports every task. Cutting food on the floor shows how limited space remains fully functional. A knife, board, and steady hands prepare all ingredients for cooking. Each piece goes directly into the pot, keeping the small workspace organized. Careful handling reduces waste before the meat reaches the stove. The cutting continues, turning stored food into portions ready for cooking. Bones and liquid remain together, drawing nourishment from more of the food. A child stays close, observing how meals are prepared in daily life. Around the pot, cooking also becomes a quiet form of practical learning. Hot liquid fills the tray, carrying the boiled ingredients into the next stage. Another ingredient is scattered across the surface before the tray is set aside. Near the stove, the tray cools, while other household work continues. The prepared food remains nearby, easy to check within the crowded room. Outside, evening deepens around the camp as activity shifts back indoors. A small adjustment to the frame helps maintain the shelter's working structure. Warm water is prepared because washing also depends on heat from the stove. The child's hair is arranged before washing begins over the basin. In one shared room, bathing requires patience and careful control of water. The basin creates a compact washing area within the main living space. Lowering the head keeps water contained and protects the surrounding floor. An adult guides the washing while other activity continues nearby. The child remains still as the washing proceeds beside the stove. Rinsing moves slowly because every pore must remain inside the basin. A simple bottle helps direct the limited warm water where it is needed. Soap and fingers replace the equipment of a separate bathroom. More heated water arrives from the kettle for the final rinse. The basin contains the entire process, keeping warmth and water in one place. Careful pouring protects the child and prevents warmed water from being wasted. After washing, raised arms prepare the child for drying and fresh clothing. Overhead garments show how indoor heat also supports drying. Washing continues at floor level before heavier layers are put back on. Near the stove, dressing and washing share the same narrow area. Warm layers hang within reach, ready for use after washing. Fresh clothing completes the transition from bathing back to daily activity. The child remains nearby with wet hair as household work continues. A garment is lifted onto a pole to dry in rising heat. Hanging clothes overhead keeps the floor available for cooking, washing, and rest. Back beside the stove, the child returns to the warmest part of the room. An adult gathers fabric and tools, clearing space for another household task. The child passes an item across, taking a small part in the work. Another child is helped into clothing as care continues around the room. Fish beside the stove shifts attention from washing back to food preparation. Hands work over the bowl, preparing ingredients with little space or waste. Children gather on bedding laid across the same multipurpose floor. Hair is arranged carefully as another part of the household routine. Grooming continues beside cooking tools because the room serves several functions. The basin is emptied and reused, allowing one object to support many tasks. Cleaning beneath low furniture helps keep the compact shelter usable. The table is prepared again as the household moves from chores toward eating. Bread, jars, and cut food turn the crowded surface into a shared meal. Around the table, one room serves as kitchen, dining area, and storage. Serving warm food marks the shift from household work to the evening meal. At night, bedding transforms the shelter into a sleeping space. Thick covers keep the children close to the warm interior. Above them, layered fabric and poles continue to hold the shelter together. Outside, darkness surrounds the shelter while activity settles indoors.